And welcome everyone to Week 6 in the NFL. John Stanko here. Unfortunately, Mike Ritz is not for this podcast edition. He is busy in Connecticut being a good boyfriend visiting Monique, so good for Michael Ritz. But let's hop right into Week 6. Let's start with the Thursday game. Both me and Mike had the Chicago Bears defeating the New York Giants, but the game was much closer than neither of us anticipated. You know what? The Giants played really, really well. They actually got rushing yards from Brandon Jacobs, who had 106 yards rushing. But still they could not get the win. Brandon Marshall was back to his old self, had 2 touchdowns. And you know what? Jay Cutler had a good game. Matt Forte had a solid game. Overall, the Bears played a clean game. They didn't play a great game, but they played a clean game. And the first 2 possessions were interceptions for Eli. He finished with 3 on the game. You know what? That's really a struggle, and it's really the epitome of the season. Now 15 interceptions for Eli Manning. They lead the league in turnovers, which is just unbelievable. Mike Ritz, that was his point. He can't believe that a team with this much talent. But Ruben Randall is the future of the offense, Mike says, and you know what? You got to agree with it. He's putting up almost as good numbers as Victor Cruz and Akeem Nicks, and Eli Manning seems incredibly comfortable with him. So, I mean, good for the Giants. They put up a showing, but they're still 0-6, and me and Mike Ritz both pick up a win in the picks column. Record-wise for the picks, heading into Week 6, I was 49 and 28, I believe. 49 and 28. And then Mike Ritz was 46 and 31. So, a big 3-game difference right now, but we got some disagreements this week heading in. So let's hop right to it. We got the Cincinnati Bengals after a big win against the New England Patriots, heading to Buffalo at Ralph Wilson Stadium to play the Buffalo Bills. For this game, me personally, I had Cincinnati. Cincinnati, their defense played exceptionally well against the Patriots. Now, I think this game's going to be really close. The Bills are 2-3, but they're a good 2-3. The big problem is that E.J. Manuel is not going to play. He is not going to play. He's going to be sidelined with an injury. That's really going to hurt. And Buffalo, they allow 377 yards per game while getting 350 yards themselves. But I can't see them pulling off the win against the Cincinnati Bengals front, especially if E.J. Manuel and his mobility is not going to be there for the good defensive line that Cincinnati has. Mike Ritz, before he found out that E.J. Manuel was not playing, had the Bills, but then wisely changed his pick to the Cincinnati Bengals. So we both agree in this game the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get the W, continue their momentum. And you know what? I completely agree with him. It's going to happen. Cincinnati Bengals are, if you look at that AFC North, it's really tight. It's really tight. So yes. And then let's go to the next game, possibly the toughest game of the week to call. Really tough one. You have Green Bay going to Baltimore. A really tough game. You know what? For me personally, this comes down to the battle between Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. Clay Matthews is out, yes, I know, so the Ravens have an advantage there. But Mike Ritz points out the Bengals have, I believe, a 24-3 record when Ray Rice touches the ball more than 20 times. But the thing is, the Packers are going to score a lot of points, and the more points they score, the more Joe Flacco is going to have to throw the ball. Now, Torrey Smith is having a great season, but who do you trust more in a game, Aaron Rodgers or Joe Flacco? So, I gotta think that the Packers' offense is just too good. Both me and Mike agree with that, and we have more faith in Aaron Rodgers than Joe Flacco. So, hands down there, seems pretty easy going. And when you look at the stats, you compare Aaron Rodgers, who's got a 67% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, to Joe Flacco, 57% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Really no comparison there. You got to go with Aaron Rodgers. And also, Joe Flacco's been sacked 14 times, and Morgan Burnett is coming back to the secondary for the Packers. So, you know what? I got to go with the Green Bay Packers going up in that one. So, moving on. Let's see what we got here next. We got the Detroit Lions playing the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, in the dog pound. Calvin Johnson just announced that he is active to play, which I think is the seal of victory for the Detroit Lions. Why? Because Reggie Bush is not going to have 2 bad weeks in a row. I don't think that's going to happen. Also, the pass rush I really think is going to start to be an effect on Cleveland today. And Calvin Johnson, he's going to be limited, but you know what? I think he's got to at least catch a touchdown here. The front seven for Cleveland is very, very good. Their back four, I don't think, is as good as their linebackers and defensive line. So with that being said, I mean, the Browns are tied in the league with 18 sacks, and so Matthew Stafford's got to keep upright. But the fact of the matter is, I think that the Lions are just too good. And Mike Ritz wants to point out that, the Browns, their schedule coming up, it's not easy. They start playing some actually legit teams. They got Detroit, Green Bay, Kansas City, Baltimore, and then Cincinnati. Then they have a bye week 10. They play Cincinnati week 11. So you know what? Tough road ahead for Cleveland. They're 3-2 now, won 3 games straight. They're hot. Might be a good story now, but we'll see what the story is after week 11, after they play all those good teams. So we both agree there that we got the Detroit Lions. And then moving on again, we have the Oakland Raiders playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. I think this is, the Chiefs are 5-0. Andy Reid, absolutely phenomenal story. Alex Smith playing great ball. Terrell Pryor, though, the surprise of the NFL really this year. You can't deny what he's done. Truly remarkable, including a very impressive win last week in the late Sunday night game against San Diego. Terrell Pryor averaging 6 yards a carry, 229 yards. He leads Oakland in rushing. So, you got to be happy with that. Now, Alex Smith, you know what? He doesn't turn the ball over. He's got 3 interceptions, though, in the past couple weeks. So it's been a little rough. But Jamal Charles is the key to this game. He leads Kansas City in rushing, 397 yards. And he's second, and he leads the team in receptions with 28 yards, second in yards on the team for receiving-wise with 250. He has 5 total touchdowns. He's been carrying my fantasy team. He will carry my fantasy team to victory today as well, because I think we'll have at least 2 touchdowns against the Oakland Raiders defense. Knock on wood. So I have Kansas City in this one, especially in Arrowhead. And agreed is Michael Ritz. You got to go with the Chiefs. Chiefs are going to be home. And you got to go with that. It's I think hands down, teams undefeated, they're going to go 6-0. We'll see how long Kansas City stays undefeated, because I cannot see them. If they get to 10 wins undefeated, it's ridiculous. But you got to see what happens. Andy Reid has done a great job reinventing that team, and they're 5-0 now with legit wins over Philadelphia and Dallas team, which looks really good now with their offense. And the next games for them, they play Oakland, Houston, Cleveland, and Buffalo. Those are all winnable games before a bye on week 10, and then they go to Denver, which is going to be the test. So they could be conceivably 9-0 heading into Denver, and it could be a battle of the undefeated teams. That could be really rough. And the Chiefs also allow only 197 passing yards per game, so if Oakland gets behind, they're going to have a tough time coming back. So that's why you got to go with the Chiefs. And moving on, you got the Houston Texans going up against the St. Louis Rams, who, I'm thinking are one of the most disappointing teams this year. Jeff Fisher, he hasn't done much. He's done nothing really to bring that team back to life. So, you know what, Sam Bradford, you're having a good year, but your defense is not playing that great. And the thing is, Matt Schaub, 4 straight games with a pick 6. I think TJ Yates should get the start. Especially this week against a Rams team that you could beat regardless of great quarterback play or not. But, I think the locker room has to have lost faith in Matt Schaub with what's going on. And Gary Kubiak said himself it was a tough decision to stay with Matt Schaub starting. But this is the thing where I think the Houston Texans defense is going to win the games for them. It's going to win the game for them. They're going to force a turnover. They're going to be key because they know that they're the only shot they have of winning this game. Sam Bradford, though, is having an underrated year with 10 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. But Dale Richardson and I believe Zach Stacy, running back for St. Louis, they have done absolutely nothing for the running game. And I think that's why St. Louis is going to lose, because they're going to need to be balanced against this team. And it's just not going to happen. But with that being said, Houston, their offense has been so inconsistent. Can the Rams pull this one out if it's crazy? Yeah. I can see it. The Rams, they've been spoilers before. And tight end Owen Daniels is out. It's going to be the first game with that happening. But I have to go with Houston because I know how good their team is. And they only allow 260 yards per game compared to St. Louis 382. That's why I'm going to go with Houston. And Michael Ritz agrees. He is going with Houston as well, as bad as Schaub has been. So we both agree there. Moving on, I think we have it's going to be one of the more emotional games of the week, with the terrible news of Adrian Peterson. It's a tragic story. His 2-year-old son, was beaten by, the mother's boyfriend, and he died in the hospital. Now Adrian Peterson didn't know him. It was like there was a test, and he was determined the father. The first time he saw him was when he was in the hospital. It's a terrible story, regardless of how you look at it. It's awful. And that's why I think Carolina has a good defense, but Minnesota, I gotta feel that AP is gonna play possessed. He's gonna want to relieve so much stress off his shoulders. He's gonna be breaking tackles left and right, and I think you have to go with Minnesota in this one. I also believe that Matt Castle is getting the start over Christian Ponder, and Matt Castle. I think it's going to lead the team to victory. And Carolina last week had a dud against Arizona, a mega dud. And Cam Newton did nothing last week, really struggled. I think you got to go with the Vikings this one. I think, especially at home, the team's going to be behind AP. You got to go with Minnesota. Minnesota's going to improve to 2-3, where the Panthers are going to fall to 2-4, and the pressure on Juan Rivera as head coach is going to increase even more so. And then we get to the 1 o'clock game that will be featured here in New York, and people on campus, the dead Iona campus, will be watching. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the New York Jets. The Jets are 3-2 with a big win against Atlanta. Geno Smith with 3 touchdowns looked really, really grown up. Steelers are still winless. They are coming off a bye after playing in that game in Miami. So Mike Ritz is going with the New York Jets. He says that Geno can tear apart the Steelers D that's old. And you know what? I can see it happening. But I'm going to put my faith in a veteran. Not a veteran player, but a veteran coach. I'm going to go with Dick LeBeau and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to get their first win coming off the bye. It's in New York. I know it's going to be a tough game. Should I be picking the Jets? Probably. Because the Jets defense is legit once again. But I think Dick LeBeau can confuse Geno Smith enough with his defenses. He's a veteran. He knows what to do. But my opinion is that Cromartie is banged up a little bit. I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to get a couple touchdowns. And I think the Steelers' defense, while they're not nearly as good as they once were, you know what? They're gonna have to step up. They're going to have to get the win. And it's going to be tough. I'm not going to deny it. But I think Antonio Brown gets a touchdown. And if you look at the stats are pretty even, really, in terms of yards allowed, yards gained. They're pretty even, but the Jets only allow 76 rushing yards per game. So if the Steelers are going to want to win, they're going to have to run their rookie, Le'Veon Bell. He's going to have to get some yards, going to have to make some plays in order for the Pittsburgh Steelers to pull off this victory and get their first win of the season. And then let's go back to the NFC. We got the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Tampa Bay Bucks. Philadelphia, Michael Vick is not playing due to his hamstring injury, But you know what? It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that Nick Foles played quite well last week against the Giants in the backup position. He knows how to play. And I think the Eagles are still going to pull this one out. Buccaneers are going to go 0-5, even though they're coming off a bye and at home. I think that they're not going to be able to keep up with the offense. I think with Nick Foles in, it's going to be extra LaShawn McCoy time. Good for my fantasy team. And you know what? I think this is Vic's job when he comes back from being hurt. I know he's bummed because he wanted to be a 16-game quarterback. He wanted to play every single snap this season. But he's a fragile quarterback, and sometimes you just got to accept it. But with that being said, you have a capable backup. And I think that's really key. And you know what? I think the Eagles are going to win this one. They got a big morale booster win against the Giants. And while Tampa Bay only allows roughly 17.5 points per game, I think the Eagles are going to surpass that mark. And you know what? I think they're going to get the W. They're going to go to 3-3, and they're going to be atop that NFC East by the end of Week 6. But then let's move on to the game that is essentially the wash of the week. It's just simply terrible. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who have scored 5 touchdowns all season, I believe, are going against the Denver Broncos at home in the Sports Authority Field at Mile High in Denver, Colorado. This is, you look at the stats comparing these two teams, it's ridiculous. You have Chad Henne, who has 2 touchdowns on the year, compared to Peyton Manning, who has 20. Blaine Gabbert, he's even worse than Chad Henne. He's got 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions, and a 48% completion percentage. Both these quarterbacks are awful. They got Justin Blackman back last week. Woohoo! 67-yard touchdown pass. Eli Manning's going to have at least like 3 of those today. This is going to be a blowout. Me and Mike both agree that it's going to be Denver going up against Jacksonville. It's going to be ridiculous. The big question is, do you go with the spread? What do you take? I believe it's 27 points or 28 points. I'm taking Denver because I think Denver's second team is better than Jacksonville's first team anyway. I'm sorry. So I'm going to take Denver giving up those points. Mike did not agree as much. He says he can't turn down 27 points, 28 points. So he had to go with Jacksonville getting the points. But in terms of regular pick'em, easy pick here with Denver. If you don't pick this as your lock of the week in your Survivor League pools, if you want to move forward, then I don't know what to tell you, because this one is, if this upset happens, it'll be one of the biggest upsets of all time. And also, great stat by Michael Ritz here. He texted me this yesterday. Matt Prater has 56 points on the season, which is 5 more than Jacksonville has on the entire year, their entire team. 51 points for Jacksonville, 56 points for Matthew Prater. Crazy stat. Credit to Mike Ritz on that one. Got that from Rick Riley, who had his own little turmoil with the Deadspin, impersonating his father, giving him the wrong quote. But that's neither here nor there. That's not for this podcast. But we both got Denver in this one. Let's go to the game of the week, though. The New Orleans Saints 5-0, going off a big win against the Bears, coming to Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, to play against the New England Patriots, coming off a tough loss to the Bengals. Rob Gronkowski's not going to play. Steven Ridley is going to play. Mike Ritz picked the Saints, and I shocked him by saying I'm picking the Saints as well. It hurts deep down. It breaks my heart, but I don't think the Patriots are going to win this game. I don't think their offense is good enough to keep up with New Orleans, and both secondaries are really good. Their both secondaries allow less than 250 passing yards per game, but the Saints' defense is so improved. Rob Ryan has turned that defense around, and Jimmy Graham is unstoppable. He's an MVP talk right now with Peyton Manning and stuff like that. He's having an unbelievable year, on course to set records. So I'm going with the Saints. I think they can honestly win by a touchdown or 10 points in Foxborough. Now, can the Patriots pull it off? If they get a couple defensive plays, yeah, sure, but you're going to have to control the ball on the ground, and you're going to have to run against New Orleans, and that's going to be up to Steven Ridley, LeGarrette Blount, and the committee of running backs. Tom Brady's not going to need to be the primary source of offense. It's going to need to be the offensive line getting a push and ball control, which is something the Patriots have not done in recent years, but that's what they're going to need to do to get the win against New Orleans. New Orleans is a team that once they score in bunches, and you don't want to give Drew Brees a chance late in the game because he will succeed. So, I mean, you got to look at this. Both teams allow roughly just 14 points per game, but the Saints average scoring 27, while the Patriots only average scoring 19. So you're going to have to go with the Saints. It hurts me to say this, and, I mean, I shocked Mike Ritz when I said it, but it's rationality for the sake of the podcast. But, let it be said, I am still rooting incredibly hard for the Patriots. I'm sorry, I got a little bit of the sniffles, got a little bit of a cold. But let's go to Sunday. Sunday at 4:25. The Arizona Cardinals are 3-2 against the San Francisco 49ers. 3-2. It's going to be a close game, right? I'm not really sure. The Cardinals are a weak 3-2 with a win against Detroit. That's pretty good. But they lost to St. Louis, and they won against Tampa Bay and Carolina. So it's like, their offense is not very good. 225 yards passing per game. That's ranked 22nd in the NFL, and only 81 rushing yards per game. That ranks 23rd. It's not good. The one thing they can do is they can stop the run. They only allow 79 rushing yards per game. That is 3rd in the NFL. So it's going to be up to Colin Kaepernick. He might need to throw the ball a bit more, which he struggled of late. He hasn't really had the fantastic games of the past, especially week one. Ever since week one, he's really struggled, and it's obvious that he has not been himself. And I think it's obvious that the coaches have lost a little bit of faith in him, because if you look at the win against Houston, he only threw the ball 15 times. He only completed 6 passes. He had 1 touchdown, and he only ran the ball once. It was all Frank Gore. So, and in the win against St. Louis, he only threw the ball 23 times, and he had 2 touchdowns. So they're limiting his steps, and they're limiting his throwing the ball, and they're making less responsibility of the game on him, which in the long run might be good. It might be the way to go. But I'm going to have to go with San Francisco, and Mike agrees, saying that the Cardinals suck. Moving on. And moving on, he just honestly thinks they're the weakest 3-2 in the NFL. And Frank Gore's averaging 6.6 yards per carry this year. So you're going to have to go with the 49ers at home. Easily the inconvenient truth. Moving on, we have the Washington Redskins going up against the high-flying but bad defensive team of the Dallas Cowboys. Last Sunday's game between Dallas and Denver, it's the reason you watch football. It was literally Madden. If you have seen a game of Madden, that's what it was. If there were touchdowns on every possession, the punters were inactive, it didn't matter. It was a fantastically entertaining game. You can't beat it. It might be the game of the season, and it was week 5. But you're going to have to go with Dallas. They're going to beat Washington. Me and Mike both agree that Washington's secondary is not good, even after a week on the bye. Alfred Morris is one of the most disappointing running backs, along with Doug Martin in the NFL. Both me and Mike have Dallas winning this one. I did skip one of the 425 games, or one of the 405 games, but not much of a big deal. Tennessee going to Seattle. It's in CenturyLink Field. Mark it for the Seahawks. It's going to happen. And Mike Ritz agrees with me. It's in Seattle. Check. They don't lose at home. Let's get to the Monday night game. We'll wrap this one up quick on a quick edition of the podcast here. We got Indianapolis at San Diego. San Diego coming off a tough loss to Oakland. Ryan Matthews is not playing. Danny Woodhead's going to get most of the touches at running back position. Indianapolis Colts, though, they are one of the top 5 teams in the NFL right now. Coming off a huge win against Seattle at home. You gotta look at the Colts as a team that has the capability to do things. They are the prohibitive favorite in the AFC South now, because Houston, who are they right now? They are really struggling. So you're gonna have to go with Indianapolis over San Diego. We both agree on that one. Me and Mike both have that one. So the only game we did disagree on, me and Mike don't disagree really much at all, but he's going with the Jets, and I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The rest, though, we do agree. I was surprised that we didn't disagree on the Green Bay-Baltimore game. I think there was a chance for disagreement there. And the Cincinnati Buffalo game. If E.J. Manuel was playing, Mike Ritz was going with Buffalo, but no E.J. Manuel. Ralph Wilson Stadium loses a bit of the magic, so you're gonna have to go. With Cincinnati there. Just to recap the records. I have 49 wins. Mike Ritz has 46, a 3-game difference. We'll see what happens this week, if I pick up a game or not. Last week, the only game we disagreed on was the Eagles-Giants. I had Eagles, he had Giants, so I gained a game up there. Mike Ritz, 46-31. Myself, 48-29. We'll see what happens at the end of the week. Tune in next week when we preview the games. Both of us will be here previewing the games of Week 7 in the NFL. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and enjoy your Sunday.